and we've been on a bit of a journey together as friends that you do over that period of time. But who she is today is nothing like she was 25 years ago. She's completely different. She's been on a journey just like I have. But she said to me the other day, you know what, Chris, I feel like I'm dying. And I'm like, well, maybe part of you is. You know, that old you, that old part of you, the old, you know, you've been a mother, you've been a wife, you've been, you know, many different roles that you've played. You've been a medium, you're a great medium, but, you know, that's not who you are. And she's been kind of stepping in and out of different roles for many years and never really let any of them die so that she could really birth a new self. So I did the death rites with her, and we call them the death rites, but they're the great transition rites that we learn in the east direction that allows people to let things die, to say, okay, I honor everything that I've been, and now who am I? But you can't create something new when you're still holding on to the past. And so that's why the east direction is so beautiful, because we let go of everything. Who we thought we were, who we think we are, all the roles we've ever played. And we learn how to die with grace and dignity, dying consciously. But it means that we can live again and create who we want to be. And really, the role of the shaman now, as forever, has been to dream a new world into being, to constantly dream a world, to envision and dream a world of peace and harmony. And we can't do that if we're still holding on to who we thought we were. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's so rich, Chris, because you mentioned so many different facets, and I could go in any direction and ask you about any different piece. Yeah. But one piece that I think comes to mind is you've talked about this circle, these different elements and directions and animal guardian spirits. I know in shamanism there's also this concept of the three worlds, and you mentioned the underworld. Could you say something about this kind of idea of the three worlds?
Yeah, okay, so the three worlds, all traditions hold this. So this is how we as human beings hold the world, that there's an underworld, a middle world, and an upper world. The underworld, to a large extent in the West, has been demonized. That, you know, this Hades or the devil or whatever, Pan, that used to be, Pan was the animistic keeper of the underworld in our Celtic traditions, became the horned god and then eventually became the devil. And through Christianity, we really have buried that underworld and assigned it to a place of not being somehow worthy and being a very scary place. In the dark, it's the darkness, it's the shadow, you know, that kind of thing. Well, for me, this has always been a wonderment because for me, this is the earth. This is Mother Earth, the deep, dark feminine. And it grows us. It nourishes and nurtures us. It grows, you know, from the compost, grow incredible roses and flowers and blooms. And yet we say the underworld is a scary place and we're not going to go there because we've been, you know, if you've been really bad in this lifetime, you get assigned to hell, really. It's been made into that place. But the shamans, the indigenous peoples, absolutely believe that the underworld is the place of the shadows, where are held the parts of us that are that haven't been manifested yet, or where the middle world is such a scary place that those other parts of us get held until it's time to reclaim them. It's the shadow. It's held by this archetypical energy of, we call it in the Inca tradition, Huascar, who was the brother of Atahualpa, who was killed and decided to go down in the underworld to be held there to look after the domains of the soul. So when we experience soul loss, Huascar is there holding and looking after those parts of our soul. It's actually not the place of the ancestors either, which is, you know, we often think that dead people go to the underworld and that's it. It's not. It's the domains of the soul. And the underworld is our unconscious. Carl Jung talks about this a lot. It's held in the underworld is our unconscious. That's our personal unconscious and our collective unconscious, the parts of us that we haven't realized, made real yet. So it's juicy. For me, this is where the juice of life is. And I'll talk a little bit about how I came to shamanism through this, really. So the underworld is the unconscious. The middle world is the world that you and I live in. The world where, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you do your work, you pay your bills and so on. It's the everyday life. It's the collusion that we all have that this is the world. And then there's the upper world, which is the world of our becoming, or if you like, our connection to something bigger than all of us that we may call God or the universe or spirit or whatever your vision of that is. It's that which is bigger than all of us, that almost holds our becoming, who we're becoming maybe 10,000 years from now. It's our light being, our luminous being, if you like. And so these three aspects live in every indigenous tradition. That and where we are right now in the realm of things is, in terms of the Mayan calendar and the Vedic traditions and the Celtic traditions and the Hopi and the African, the prophecies that were written many, many years ago say that there will come a time when the three worlds come together. And when that happens, a big shift in humanity will take place. Now, I can't speak for the Hopi or the African or the Vedic understanding of this, but I can speak certainly from the Mayan perspective, which says that when these three worlds come together, when the underworld comes up to meet the middle world, and the upper world comes down to meet the middle world, that we will then step into a new world, a new who we're becoming as a human race. And for the Mayans, that year of 2012 has been the end of the old way of being, and foretells of a new way of being for humanity. I like to think that this is the shadow side of all of us coming up to be held in the middle world, to be dealt with, to be enlightened, and that the light coming down from the upper world helps to enlighten us all, and that we can finally, what I would say, bring heaven here on earth. And that's what, for me, 2012 is all about. And that when those three worlds come together, heaven arrives on earth. What that means in real terms, I have no idea. I can envision what it means, but I don't know. Alberto talks about the Homo sapiens, which is who we are, he who knows everything, is transforming into Homo luminous, which is light beings, the beings of light. And I can envision that easily, to say that, yes, I would love to see this world full of beings of light, and I know that's who we are, actually, underneath the roles that we play, the mask that we wear. That's who we are. But to actually make that real on Earth would be extraordinary. And then we wouldn't need to have war.
Hooray.
In a way, yeah, hooray. I remember a friend speaking to me once and saying, that feels like going home, that we can actually finally go home or come home to ourselves here on Earth, and that feels just beautiful. But my own journey through this wheel has been extraordinary, and if I think in terms of the shadow and the underworld, that's really what called me to this work, because I wanted to see what was hidden. What's hidden, that I know in my heart. I was born onto this earth, being of light and love. We all are. And yet, as I looked around me as I grew up, it's like, this is not what I thought it would be. This is, war and strife and struggle and a love that we had to barter for, and a God that we had to be good for.